She grabbed my system, threw it over the balcony. I'm like, why you got an attitude? I don't have an attitude. And you start, well, you don't do this. You don't never talk to me. You don't never buy me flowers.
Talk to me. Have a conversation and figure out why am I having this me problem.
It made me upset, and I was like, man, I don't want to hear it. I'm not going to talk to you right now. Let her live her life, whatever. And I'm mad, and I get her wedding dress. I threw it in the tub. Now, the laptop, I threw the laptop in the water too. Hi, I'm Reggie. This is my lovely wife, Zoe. We are the founders and creators of the Love Never Fails podcast. We are here with episode 2, and today we got a great topic. We're going to be talking about love. We're going to talk about what it means to be loved. How do you know if you're in love? And then maybe how do you handle situations if you don't feel love? So to get kicked off, for you, Zoe, when it comes to love, what are your ways that you receive love?
Talking about love languages, right?
Yeah, let's talk about love. Let's start there. Let's talk about love languages. What is your love languages?
My love language is words of affirmation. So
Okay.
words of affirmation, encouragement, and gifts. But not like lavish gifts, just gifts. Like if you're at the store and you get my favorite candy bar, that's enough because that shows me that you thought about me.
Okay. Well, okay, can you please explain for everybody out there, what does words of affirmation mean? How can I, give me a quick rundown of how I can give you good words of affirmation?
So like I said, words of affirmation is encouragement and validation.
Validation. Okay. So tell me, hey, you did a great job here. I appreciate that you did this, or I see what you're doing.
That'll work.
Okay. I got to work on that. Lord have mercy. For me, of course, I don't know. I feel like it's the typical man thing to say that my love language is physical touch, but I'm a big physical touch person, and I like quality time. I like hanging out. And I guess, quality time is different for everybody. Some people look at it in certain ways. For me, it's just being there, hanging out with somebody. We could be laying in the bed, watching a movie, cuddled up. For me, that's good quality time, or going on a walk. I love doing stuff like that. I was talking to one of my coworkers, and we were talking about love languages. And he brought up something very interesting. He said, the problem with love languages is we focus so much on our own language and how we receive love. What do you think about the way that you show love? How is your way that you show, like everybody has the way that they receive love, but how do you show love? Is that a part? I wonder if that's a part of the love language. It's not like really a quiz for that one.
It's definitely acts of service. So like if I do things for you, that's how you can tell, okay, Zoe loves you, because she doesn't do things for everybody.
See, and I think I'm the same with both. I'm very touchy-feely, and that's my way of showing love. And so I feel like we get caught up in, so let's say I come home. I'm a physical touch person, but you're doing an act of service for me, right? And so I may be like, well, I don't feel loved because I'm not getting my needs met. So I feel like we need to get more into, okay, how does my spouse show love? And we have to be willing to receive that, right? Like I have to be willing to receive if your love, the way that you show love is acts of service.
Yeah.
I have to be willing to receive that and say, you're showing me love right now because you're doing a service to me. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. It makes sense.
What, you got something to say to that? Like, okay, so I'm a physical touch person. So if I'm touching on you, I'm showing you I love you. I care about you. You're beautiful, right? But I may not have bought you a gift, or I maybe didn't buy flowers that week, right? And so you may then feel unloved, but how can we still receive that love? You know what I mean?
I don't know. I really just feel like at this point, like in my life in the marriage, like I'm a bit over love languages because I think now we just have responsibilities. And so that's why I say I show love through acts of service, because like it's our responsibility to keep the house clean. It's our responsibility to take care of the kids. Like I'm doing these things and I feel like you should receive that as love. Like I'm just doing what I'm supposed to do. Like we have to take care of our responsibilities first. Like work and then play. Like you talking about touching you, but I mean, I don't know. I just feel like it's not the most important thing, but that's a flaw that I have. So.
Yeah, that's not your love language, right? So for you, let's say communication, that's big for you, right? Let's say you want to hear certain things. And so in your mind, you're like, well, that's high up on my list. So that's important. But for me, the physical touch is important.
It's a basic need for you.
Yes.
Okay.
You know, so the same way you feel if I walked and I didn't say anything to you, or I didn't buy you flowers, or, you know, give you those things that you're looking for, that's the same way I feel when I'm not getting my needs met and I'm not getting touched and rubbed on and kissed on.
That makes sense.
That's what I like.
That makes sense.
Thank you. So, how let's look help some people out, right? If people are in a relationship, they're in a marriage, and they feel unloved, right? They feel like they're not getting their needs met. The person is not handling their responsibility. What are some things or some ways that you can tell people this is what you should do? This is how you can handle that.
I think just communicate. Like if you're a woman or a man and you feel like your needs aren't getting met, communicate that to the person. But then it also, you have to look at how is the person responding when you communicate to them. Because when I used to tell you, so in the beginning of our marriage, I would tell you, okay, well, I'm not feeling loved here, or I don't agree with this. And it would always come off, you would tell me that, okay, I'm nagging. Like you would get upset because I'm telling you, okay, my needs are not being fulfilled. And so it just came to a point where I would just stop communicating that to you, because every time I open my mouth, you say I'm nagging. And that's an insult. Okay. You know, it's like, okay, every time I say something, I'm just telling you that I'm not fulfilled in this area. Like, aren't I supposed to tell you that? Or?
That's good. I mean, that's important. Yes. Communication is very important. I also think there's ways to communicate things, right? So yeah, if you tell me, okay, I'm not feeling loved, that's one thing. Then you say, you don't do this for me. You don't do that for me. You don't never do this. That's two different things, right?
How would I communicate it? Like, do I just say, hey, I don't feel loved, and not say anything else?
Yeah, no, but okay. If we're like, when we go on walks, we have great conversations when we go on walks, right? So we say, okay, we're going on a walk. We already in a state where we're relaxed, we're comfortable. And you say, hey man, you know, Reggie, hey, I've been really feeling down a little bit because you haven't been doing this, and this for me. And if you do those things, you know, it really will make me feel better. I really feel more loved, and I feel better in our marriage. But when you come at me and you walk in the house, or you walk past, I'm like, yo, are you good? Oh, I'm good. I'm like, what? Okay. Like, I'm like, why you got an attitude? I don't have an attitude. I'm like, and then you start, well, you don't do this, you don't never talk to me, you don't never buy me flowers. Okay, when you do that, yeah, I'm like, you're nagging. I don't want to. So yeah, I think there's a way to do that. There's a way to go about those conversations.
You say that. I mean, I feel like I have come to you very calm and collected before, and I don't know, it's just certain people, like, you just don't take it serious. Like, if I'm too calm, like, you don't hear me. No. And so, but this was early on in the relationship. Okay. I don't even think I worry about it anymore. Like, I don't.
It's important. So, and for me, right, I agree with what you're saying. If you don't feel loved, you have to find ways to verbalize it. And I think as people, we have to be more strategic in our relationships. I think at times we go too much on emotion, and then we act really quickly. Okay, I feel this way. I'm not feeling loved. I'm not feeling heard. And then we respond and we react to it. Whereas if you're in a marriage, so I'm talking about marriage. If you're in a marriage, you have to have the mindset that marriage is forever. Yeah. If you understand marriage is forever, that means your problem doesn't have to be solved immediately. Like, you don't have to have the answer tomorrow. You can take some time and allow yourself to really develop the feelings and develop the best way to talk about that situation and really figure out, is this something that's really, really important? You know, I think we have to decipher from what's really important and what may not be as important. Like, do you think there's topics that shouldn't be addressed?
No, I mean, you should address everything. If it bothers your spouse, why wouldn't you address it? Like, why would you sweep it under the rug?
I don't know. Like, okay, So you like leaving the lights on, right? Or every time you're in the kitchen, you turn the sink on. You turn the faucet on. You just leave it running. It's like comfort to you.
When I'm cleaning.
Right? The faucets just stay on. So is it something where I really need to sit down and have a conversation with you about leaving the faucet on?
No, it doesn't bother you.
It does bother me. That costs money. The lights on, the fall, ching, 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 lights, water, that's all I hear.
That's all you hear?
That's all I hear. Every time I see lights on,
God.
I just hear ching, 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 lights, muddy. So, so I feel like some things we have to look within ourselves and say, this is a me problem. This is not something that is their problem. Like, if the faucet is on and it bothers me, I can just turn it off.
Yeah, but then too, I feel like even if you do have a you problem, it's important to have a person to express that to. So if I come to you and I'm expressing something to you and you feel like it's a me problem, I think it's your responsibility to take care of my emotions and bring out the best in me. So talk to me, have a conversation and figure out, why am I having this me problem? Because it's not just me, we're married, right?
Yeah.
And so we have to take accountability for each other.
That's good. I like that. I think that's really important. You know, I'm really big on self-evaluating within situations and really trying to figure out, why does this bother me? Why am I getting upset by this? You know, I think those are really important questions to ask whenever you find yourself getting frustrated. You got to figure out the root of it and why it's bothering you.
Yeah.
Kind of to switch gears a little bit, but still talking about love. Do you believe in love at first sight? Do you believe that's a real thing?
No.
Because I love the TV show on Netflix, Love is Blind, right? I don't know if you ever really watched it.
Love is Blind.
Yeah, Love is Blind. There's a TV show on Netflix. People go to these things called pods, and they talk to these people without looking at them.
In the separate rooms, and they can't see each other?
Yes, and they can't see each other, right? And so they're asking, is love blind, right? So can you fall in love with somebody without ever seeing them? Do you think that's a possibility?
I think it's a possibility because they're having conversation, and at the end of the day, I mean, love is an action, so you have to choose to love somebody, right? So if you decide, I'm gonna love this person, then yeah, it's possible.
I believe, okay, I don't believe that you can have love at first sight. Because I believe what I think love is, I believe love is sacrifice. To love somebody, you have to be willing to sacrifice something. You have to, it's an action word. I don't think you can just fall in love. I think you grow in love.
What are you sacrificing?
You gotta, I think when it comes to love, you find something to sacrifice, right? Like when you love somebody, you begin to sacrifice maybe your time, right? You hang out with them more, or maybe you sacrifice hobbies. Y'all do more stuff together. Like I think love is an action. You have to choose somebody. You have to choose to love this person.
Right.
Like I think you take the emotions out of it. I don't think love is so much emotion, where I think it's more so decision.
Yeah, it's a decision that you make.
What I want to get at is, how can you decipher the difference between love and lust? How do you know? How can you tell? Or if you're talking to somebody and this person may be telling you that they love somebody or they have this infatuation for somebody, how do they determine what's the difference between love and lust?
I think you have to completely take sex out of the equation.
Okay.
And
that's a big one.
Yeah, because I mean, they're totally different. And then look at the fruit of each one. Okay, if I lust, what happens? But if I love someone, what is the fruit of love?
Okay. Do you think... Nah, you know, I agree. The issue is, what's tough is, in our society, sex is such a major thing in our society, right? And people don't understand the importance, and they don't understand how much sex controls and determines a relationship. You know, I always say that what intimacy does is it creates this false sense of closeness, right? Because sex is such an emotional thing, it's such a spiritual thing, that we don't understand how powerful it is when we are engaging in that activity. And so I feel like what happens, we get into these relationships, and we focus so much on what this person looks like, what they got going on, how they dress, and we don't really get to know the deep and the depthness of who they are as a person or individual. Do you agree with that when it comes to relationships?
Do I agree with what?
That how sex can create this false sense of closeness and people don't really get to know people because of the intimacy.
Yeah, it can definitely affect you getting to know someone. I mean, that's why I said, like, to differentiate, you have to completely take sex out of the equation.
Mm-hmm. And just get to know them for who they are.
Yeah, because I mean, if you're lusting, like I said, the fruit of lust is going to be negative. Like, it's going to be sin. It's going to take you further away from God. The fruit of love is going to bring you closer to God. So that's how you can differentiate. Like, what is the result of what I'm doing?
Where is it taking me? Where is the relationship taking me? What if this person don't have these looks? What happens when the looks go away? Like, can I still be with this person? Can I still hang out with this person? Do I still love this person even if they may not smell as good or they gain weight? Like, you have to love them for who they are. You know? I feel like one of the flaws that we had getting into marriage is we didn't really build that foundation of friendship. Like, we didn't really truly get to know each other the best way we could. We were so like into being around each other and getting into the relationship. Well, I feel like we missed that friendship part. And so I think that affected us when situations came up, when situations arose where we kind of began to feel unloved within our relationship.
What were we trying to do instead of get to know each other?
I feel like we were just so into the relationship, right? Like, we were just, okay, I want to be with you. Let's be in this relationship. We hung around each other. But I feel like we didn't get to know each other personally.
So if we're hanging around each other, how do we not get to know each other personally? Okay,
that's a good question. So here's why I think that. I think because so much times in relationships, we have this sense of ownership, right? Where this is my person, this is mine, and then we want to tend to make that person into what we like. So if this person doesn't do anything, we get mad that they're doing something that we don't like, and then we begin to not try to change it, but indirectly we try to change it, where we get mad, we tell them what we don't like and all that, instead of really looking and evaluating this person and seeing the things that they do wrong.
So red flags.
Seeing certain red flags, and instead of just taking the information in, we try to correct it or we try to change it. And I feel like you can't try to change somebody when you're getting to know them. You have to get to know them. Yeah. You have to see, dang.
And accept them for who they are.
That person, they handled that situation like that. Let me take note of that. And so that brings me to a situation we had in our marriage, and this is going to maybe get a little deep, but it was right before we got married, and, I don't know what happened, but I got upset. And, that during that time with me, growing up, when I see, my dad get mad, he'll just walk away. He won't say anything. That's kind of the way that he handled himself when he got mad. And so for me, when I got mad, I was like, I'm just not going to say anything. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to talk. I'm just going to go do my own thing and just let stuff boil over. And whenever we calm down, we could talk about it later. Okay. And so I don't know what happened. You made me upset. And I was like, man, I don't want to hear it. I'm not going to talk to you right now. And so I was being immature, I was being childish. I wasn't talking to you. And I decided, all right, I ain't going to talk to her. I'm just going to go good on the game, let her live her life, whatever. Bad idea. And so, so you got upset and you grabbed my system. We lived in an apartment. We was on the third floor in the apartment, second floor. She grabbed my system, threw it over the balcony. Threw the system over the balcony, got the controllers, threw the controllers into the pool. I was really hurt. I was so hurt. Now listen, fellas, man, if you out there and you got your system, guys, we know how much the system means to us. gone at an instant. And so I flipped. I'm upset. You know what I'm saying? I'm mad. So I don't know what happened to the next time. All I know is she ends up leaving, and I'm mad. And I get her wedding dress. I throw it in the tub. Now, listen, the wedding dress is in like a zip. It's in a zipped up. You know what I'm saying? It's zipped up. It got a little thing over it.
This was a week before our wedding.
It was right before we got married.
I think we got an apartment maybe a couple weeks before our wedding.
Yeah. And so I put it in the tub. I ran the water. I got a laptop. I threw the laptop in the water too. I was tripping. I was mad though. I was mad because I'm like, how do you just go left like that? And I'm like, look, my mindset was, if you can go left, guess what? I can go left too, right?
You went in a circle or something. Like, that was more than left.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, if you can get crazy, I can get crazy.
Oh.
And so, you know, we go through all that, and then I don't even know how we got back to it, but we sat down and it's like, dang, that was not the best way to handle feeling unloved. And I feel like so many people get into situations and they handle them poorly. They handle them in situations like that.
Yeah.
And so do you have any advice for somebody? Let's say they went through a situation where maybe property was damaged or their emotions were damaged. How can people come out of a situation like that?
I wouldn't be the best person to talk to someone about how to handle their emotions.
Okay.
So I wouldn't advise.
You still trying to figure that one out?
Yeah, and like you said,
like you've grown though. You've grown a lot from those times when you handle situations like that, and I think you've grown to be more mature when it comes to handling your emotions. And
yeah, I have, and that just has to do with my walk with God. Like, that's the only thing that has saved me or has kept me. And yes, I've made mistakes. Like, I've still done things, and I still have moments, but the word is what keeps me now. So I'm not so wrapped up in you. Whereas at first, you know, I was idolizing you in the marriage. I mean, I don't have any idols. Like, I worship God. So, I mean, plays a big part in my maturity.
Yeah. So you're saying building that relationship with God, you know, building yourself up in that and who you are in God, you know, helps you carry yourself better. And for me, I feel like I always live my life to try to make as little dumb decisions as possible. I feel like I always done stupid stuff, and so I realized, okay, I have to limit the amount of stupid stuff I do. And then when I get in that situation, like, it's like you black out, you lose yourself in that moment. And so what I've learned is, like, I need to take a step back. And even if I'm upset, even if I'm frustrated, for one, the marriage has to come first. That comes before anything. And so if the marriage comes first, it comes before our emotions. It comes before pride. It comes before anger. And even if you feel like your spouse is not showing you the love that you may feel like you deserve, it's still our job to still show love. It's still our job to be there and maintain the marriage, maintain the relationship, because it's forever. And if it's going to be forever, it's going to be through the ups and downs. And you still have to understand that we still have to make it work. We have to come back to our foundation, come back to who we are as people, you know, and not let a situation or a moment dictate us and dictate our marriage. Yeah. You know? So, hey, just want to put it out there. If you've been through something like that, you can make it. You know, don't feel like just because you've had this big blow up, we're not recommending it. I don't recommend blowing up like that. But if it happens, you know, your marriage can still work. Your relationship can still work. But you are going to have to climb a battle of getting through some resentment, having some tough conversations, and really doing some self-evaluating and see, why am I blowing up like this? Why am I getting angry like this?
What can I do different?
And what can I do different? How can I handle that situation better? So getting to the next topic is feeling abandonment when it comes to marriage. I know we kind of talked about it a little bit last time with my job and how you felt like my career left you stranded in the marriage with the kids and with yourself and me working, me being gone.
You being wrapped up in your career.
So can you speak to that a little bit? Speak to, you know, how do you handle those situations, or what can you do to deal with that?
I mean, the first thing I always did to handle any situation where I'm feeling neglected or whatever would just be to talk to you about it. And so, like I said, what happened was every time I would try to talk to you about something that's bothering me or I don't like it, you say, oh, well, I'm nagging. And so, I mean, it was kind of like we were going through circles for a long time. And to the point where, I mean, eventually we had kids, then we had 2 kids. And then, you know, I think it got to a point where I just stopped talking to you about stuff. And so I started taking care of myself, you know, not really worried about trying to make the marriage as harmonious as possible. I would just take care of me, make sure I'm, you know, doing my self-care routine. And then it got to a point where I'm happy, like just doing me. And then that's when the enemy came in and was like, well, you don't need him. And so,
and I feel like we went through, I want to say it was like almost a year or a year and a half of like really not talking very much. Like we would kind of go through a routine of life, and I would come home, get the kids, feed the kids, eat, put them to bed, lay down, go to sleep, wake up, go to work. And we never really took time to sit down and talk. And it just, we went through this cycle of you doing your thing, I'm doing my thing. And we just kept drifting and drifting and drifting and drifting. And what's crazy about that is because when you don't communicate in marriage, when you're not able to have set times to talk, both of y'all feel the same way, right? And it may be 2 different things, right? You felt abandoned in the marriage. You felt like I didn't care about your voice and I didn't want to hear you. And I felt the same way, like you don't care about what I got going on. You don't support me. You're not there for me. And I felt abandoned at the same time. And so we were feeling the same thing, but nobody was taking that first step, you know, to fix it, to get over the hump.
Why did you feel abandoned?
I felt like you didn't really love me, or you didn't really care for me. You wasn't there for me. You didn't support me. You know, like this kind of what we talked about, like having these pre-notions of what I expect a wife to be or what I expect marriage to be.
Yeah.
And I feel like I wasn't getting what I thought I would get out of marriage.
Okay. Where was I supposed to be?
Where were you supposed to be?
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess for me, like, I wanted my wife to support me. You know, I grew up where, you know, we just support each other. We did everything for each other. We're always around each other family wise, like no matter what. And it just felt like I wasn't seeing that. I wasn't seeing what I wanted to see at that time.
Yeah.
And then I feel like when it comes to communicating, if I tried to bring up a topic, I feel like it would just go left. Like we wouldn't be able to really talk about it, because as soon as I brought up how I felt about something, then you would bring up how you felt about something. And it was just like us going back and forth of, well, I feel like this. No, I feel like this. Or I feel like this. I feel like this. And
so
never going anywhere.
You mentioned like 1 or 2 year span of, you know, you just going to work, coming home, or, you know, putting the kids to sleep. But then you say you felt like I wasn't there for you. If you were never home, like where am I supposed to be? What does that look like for me to be there for you if you're working 80 hours a week? You know, you're picking up extra shifts that you don't even have to pick up. Like,
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say picking up extra shifts, because it's just a part of, you know, what I do in my career. But I think there's plenty of people out there, if somebody who's a doctor or engineer or lawyer or whatever, there's plenty of jobs out there where somebody works a lot of hours. And so if somebody works a lot of hours, I feel like they shouldn't be scrutinized. They shouldn't be looked down upon because they work their job, or they're doing their job, or they have their career or whatever.
Right.
And so I felt like I was getting like, I don't know. I felt like I was getting attacked because I love my job and I'm working, you know? And so,
that's a good point.
And so it just feels like, man, like you should just support that. Man, I love what I do and be there for me. It's not like I don't want to be home. I love being home. Just, this is my job. This is my career. Like,
right.
This
and
is
it
what I'm
means
doing
a lot
for
to
a
you.
living, you know? And so I think that's where the disconnect was. Is I didn't feel like you really appreciated me. You didn't appreciate, you know, who I was or what I did. You know, that's kind of where I was at.
That makes sense. That makes sense. And I think the disconnect for me was when we started having kids, like your priorities have to shift. And I thought that would come naturally. Like when you have kids, your responsibility grows each time, each kid. And so, like you said, you are so into work and you just love your job so much, and I should just love you because you love your job. But what if I was the same way? I was so into my job to where I'm gonna go sacrifice and work 80 hours a week. I'm gonna coach every sport that I can. And we got 2 kids that we never see because we both coming home at 8 and 9 o'clock. So what if I was the same way as you? Like the dynamic wouldn't work. And so I think that was the disconnect for me, because you didn't see how much I was sacrificing to be home with the kids, and you didn't see how much that was on me, because I'm thinking, okay, we have kids now, we have more responsibilities. Like somebody has to be there to pick them up. We can't both be coaching and out here living our total best life like as if we're single. And so that was the disconnect for me.
I understand that. And I get your perspective. I get where you're coming from, you know, and I think that it's just about the way that we have to look at the situation and navigate the situation. You know, it's not 12, you know, months in a year. I'm coming home 8, 9 o'clock at night every night. You know, it's navigating the seasons, navigating the times, and understanding like we need to make the most out of our moments with each other. And I feel like we got so caught up in the moments that we didn't have with each other, we didn't cherish the moments we did have with each other. And I feel like that's the biggest thing. And I think we've grown in that, where we started going on more dates, we started doing more family things, we started spending more time with each other and making sure that, you know, we build our relationship. We need to have our times where we talk. We need to have our moments where we're walking, our moments where we drop the kids off and it's just me and you. And I think once we build that, then the seasons and the things that come up is not as big, it's not as magnified, because we kind of built our foundation up within our marriage, you know? So I think that's the biggest thing is, you know, building that and having those conversations and making sure we have that time for one another.
Building what?
Our relationship, building our connection, making sure that we go on dates, making sure that we have our alone time, making sure we have family time, you know, just making sure we spend that time together, and it's important, you know, and it's intentional. If you have any questions, you can put it in the comments. Tell us what you think about what we're talking about. Maybe you want to add to the conversation. Maybe you feel we did handle things right or wrong, or how you've handled things. And you can also email us if you have something that you're dealing with, something that you like, man, my spouse is doing this, and you want advice. We can handle it. We can talk about it. And email us at luvneverfailsp@gmail.com.
Okay, so I did want to address, we talked about in the beginning, right before we got married, you know, the whole Xbox thing and, you know, destroying things. And so one might ask, well, why did we get married after that? You know, like that was a tough situation to deal with. I mean, one, the wedding was already planned. Like we had 300 people at our wedding. It was maybe 6 or 7 days away. And I think what it comes down to is our foundation and the reason why we got married. So I remember talking to you, and it could have been before we were engaged or while we were engaged, but we always wanted our relationship to be an example for people, for other couples, other Christian couples. So that being our foundation, it kind of helped keep us together, because we know that our relationship is not for us. Like we had that mutual understanding.
It was bigger than us.
And that's also why it wasn't a big deal for me, like the whole wedding. Like I wasn't a bridezilla. I didn't plan this huge wedding. Like it has to be my way or the highway. Like at some point, I just didn't care. Like it was one of your family members. We first started planning our wedding, and I was like, well, I want to have a destination wedding. Like that's what I wanted to do. And this family member was like, no, Reggie has so much family in Houston and he should not do.
I don't like destination weddings.
He didn't like that, but still, I could have been that bridezilla, because a lot of women are like, this is how I want my wedding. Like I've dreamed for it to be this way. But I kind of just let go of it and was like, okay, whatever you're saying, you know, Reggie has all this family in Houston and blah, blah, blah. I thought the wedding was supposed to be about us. But then I thought about, I'm being serious. I thought about, okay, we did speak about, you know, our relationship being for the people. And so just having that understanding, our wedding was for the people. Like, our wedding was for people to come and witness us getting married. And that's our foundation, like, at the end of the day. And so I did want to address that because it's not, you know, all about me. So we were talking about feeling abandoned in the marriage. So the times where you felt abandoned in the marriage, how do you handle feeling that way?
For me, I tend to kind of go into my own little mind. And honestly, I'm just not a person that really makes a big deal out of anything. I can't even tell you something I really just care about so much where I'm all the way in on it. And so when things happen, I'm just like, okay, it's not that big of a deal, not that big of a deal, not that big of a deal. Okay. And I tend to brush things off, but I tend to get into the point where sometimes I kind of get frustrated, you know, when stuff keeps happening. And so I know I need to do a better job of maybe talking and saying, hey, this happened, this is how I feel in this situation, that bothers me, instead of letting things slide until I get upset and blow up about something or whatever. So I tend to kind of keep things to myself, you know, and unless I'm like, okay, this is a deal breaker. If I feel like something's a deal breaker, I'm going to address it. But if it's something small, I tend to try to let it go. You know, that's kind of how I handle things.
Okay. Well, what makes me feel unloved is having a lack of support. And what I mean by that is, like, you not seeking to understand me. Like, if I bring up something and you just get angry about it because you don't understand, like, I feel like that's impatient and that's not displaying love. So, you know, you have people that do certain things and you're like, oh, well, that's just them. Like, that's something that I want to receive from my spouse. Like, that's just her, you know, but more so in a positive way, in an understanding way.
I got that.
So,
I could be better with that.
Good. So, yeah. Well,
I know
I needed to hear.
I know for me, I tend to have this mindset where if it doesn't make sense to me, I don't want to hear it. Like, I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to talk about it. It don't make sense. Things have to make sense. And so I can do a better job of taking a step back from my perspective, listening to what you have to say, and understanding who you are, understanding the way that you go about thinking about things, the way you go about processing things, and allowing you to have that space to process, to think, to learn, to grow, and understand.
Yes, I have 1 or 2 scriptures for this segment. So the first one is James 3:16.
Okay.
And I'm going to read it because I wrote different versions. So James 3:16, where jealousy and selfish ambition exist, there will be disorder.
That's a good one.
And then another version of it is, for where envying and strife is, there is confusion in every evil work. Okay. So I had to look up the Greek definition of envy. Okay. And it means, and I'll probably say this wrong, but it means zealous, right? And so zealous means, it denotes a fierce desire to promote one's own ideas and convictions to the exclusion of everyone else. So, and then zealous is where we get the word zealot, which describes a person who is fixated, obsessed, and fanatical. So fixated, obsessed, fanatical about his own cause, that others perceive him as an extremist to the threshold of becoming militant. Okay? So this is the translation. Okay. Of the verse. So for where there is a fierce desire to promote one's own ideas and convictions to the elimination of everyone else, there will be disorder. Okay. So if you're so focused on yourself in a relationship, if you're self-seeking, which is the opposite of love, there's going to be disorder. Okay. Okay, so that's James 3:16. I did a mini Bible study on that.
You did a deep dive there, girl. Yeah, you did a deep dive on that one. Okay.
So one thing that makes me feel loved, because I went through what makes me feel unloved, and that was my scripture for it. So what makes me feel loved is just understanding the word of God and knowing that he has great plans for me. So just deep diving into the word, that makes me feel loved. I mean, it makes me feel like God has my back. It makes me feel like I can contribute to the kingdom, and makes me feel like I'm the light of the world. So that's what I do.
That's good. All right, so I got 1 Corinthians 7:3, and it says, let the husband render to his wife the affections due to her, and likewise also the wife to her husband. And I feel like we just got to understand that it's our job to love our spouse regardless of what we're getting from them, regardless of how we feel. We have to make sure that we're giving the affection that is due. It's not my job to determine what you deem as affection. You can't tell me what I deem or what I need for affection. Your job is to render the affection that I need. Give me the affection I need. My job is to give you the affection that you need. And so I think that's something that we need to understand is it's our job to serve one another. And we should be thinking, how can we outserve each other? How can we outdo each other? What can I do for you? How can I fulfill your needs? And so that's how I feel about that. What do you have anything on how you feel about that?
I like that you said outserve one another. I think that is key.
Hey, that's what you got to do. All right. So we want to say thank you for watching. We enjoyed you. I hope you enjoyed the episode. We're going to have a lot more content coming out for you. Always remember, dream like you never failed.
Laugh like you never cried.
Love like you never hurt. Love never fails.